All right, we'll get going. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are well. Regarding some of the points I made, well, first of all, I guess the regarding the video from yesterday and the things that I went through in terms of the AP test and technology. Did anyone see any immediate problems or things that I am unaware of regarding what my brief talk was about? And if you do, please unmute yourself and speak up. Or to put another way, are there any questions about what I talked about yesterday regarding the prep for next or for in 2 weeks? Okay. Looking ahead before we get to today's work, for sure next week we will have these normal sessions, 9:30 to 10:30, or thereabouts, maybe a little bit shorter. I also plan on doing some strictly kind of give and take review activities at least once, probably twice, probably like Tuesday, Thursday, sometime later in the afternoon, so to speak. And as I said in the video yesterday, I believe we'll be using Zoom, and we'll be using a program called Menti, which allows you to respond. So it'll be sort of brainstorming, quick kind of stuff, like a half hour, just to reinforce some things. Next week, we still have to continue with our 40 and the 20 questions. I'm a little bit concerned. There's a number of people who haven't been showing up to these, and also when I'm looking for their questions, that they're not there. So that's sort of frustrating at this point, because there's other people, like I wanted to talk about the scientific revolution today, and I'm not sure if the person who has a scientific revolution is here. So it's problematic for all of us. So just make sure that the 40 or the 20 questions that you have completed, that you were assigned way back in March, are shared with me. So most of you don't have to worry about it, but there are some who still haven't shared it with me, and I'm getting shared documents, daily. So we need to wrap that up. Thirdly, obviously, you need to continue on your rescue packet. It's sort of ironic and sort of sad and funny in a way. This is the big weekend, this of study in a normal test situation. And I think, in fact, I don't know if I said this in the video, but this is the weekend that I tell the story of when my kids went through AP. This is basically when I'd lock them in their bedroom. I didn't really lock them in their bedroom, but this is when they would be locked away for a certain period of time. Well, to complicate matters, you've probably been locked in your bedroom for a month now. But some serious time needs to be devoted to AP European history. I know there's other classes that you have, but for most of you, you don't have an AP test in a week and a half. So not to discount anybody else's class, but this takes priority at this point. Remember, I'm not going to ask much, if anything, of you after May 13th. So we all have to be kind of on the same page and focused, and get this stuff done. It's really, really important at this point. And I always use this example. Think of all the blood, sweat, and tears that you've gone through over the course of this year, and you're going to blow it off now? No, you need to finish it. So I think while this question is a challenge, the more I think about it, the more I talk to people about it, the more I prepare for it. I think we're uniquely suited to really kick butt on this. And for the most part, you guys have been doing really, really well. It's just last couple times, you know, we can't lose our focus would be the main point of that today. So we'll spend some more time on the test prep next week. I have to put together sort of a plan of attack, but just understand next week we're going to be seeing each other more. We have to. So for sure, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing, I'm planning on doing, I would like to do 2 full DBQs next week, as well as some practice things of things that we've sort of missed. So within the context of this, and then again as well, I'll have some optional things in the afternoons or early evenings next week. So with that, any questions? Okay. So I would like to get through 2 questions before we get to our practice DBQ today, and I'm just looking to see if people are here. I think I saw, I guess we're only going to do 1 today, but I think I saw Camden. Are you here? Yep, I see you. So let me pull yours up. What's the chat telling me? Question came up, due date for the rescue packet. Someone please tell me when the due date for the rescue packet is. Unmute yourself. Let's see if you, Justin, think about this for a second.
I mean, it's kind of the test date, because you're going to
May
use it in the
13th.
test.
Yes, May 13th is the due date. So Justin, you know, you get it. That's what that rescue packet is for. I'm not, obviously I want it done by then. That's for you to use during the test. It does us no good if you don't do it before the test. It's absolutely pointless to do it after the test. That being said, to give you a further inducement to do it before the test, that Thursday and Friday after the test is when I'm going to be looking for some record of this being done, and I will assign the grade. That I won't get your DBQ back until May 26th, they said, and then I can grade that. So, any other questions? All right. I'm glad you brought that up, though, Justin. That's you know, that's what it's for. It's your cheat sheet. You know, people don't like to say that word, but that's what it is. So let's make it absolutely the best thing that you can do to assist you. So I hear Camden's off his mute. So let me just. Oh, you're not supposed to see that. Oh, probably you couldn't see it. So here we go.
All right, so my question was to compare the rise of absolute monarchy and enlightened despotism in Prussia, Austria, and Russia from the late 17th century to the eve of the French Revolution. And my contextualization was the rise of monarchies across Europe in the 17th century would eventually give way to the emerging enlightened despots in the countries of Prussia, Austria, and Russia. However, this change in government did not come overnight. The old ideals of absolutism were replaced by the Enlightenment. Prior to the Enlightenment, these countries had lived under monarchs who practiced absolutism. This was where the one leader had absolute control. There were no checks and balances. However, this did allow for quick action. The Enlightenment then brought about the ideals of rationalism, secularism, freedom, education, and tolerance. Many of these new ideals were ignored by the newest monarchs in Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Luckily, not all of them were ignored. Leaders such as Catherine the Great, Frederick the Great, Joseph II, and Maria Theresa took education and secularism as well as other ideas and brought them to life inside their own monarchies. Even though these leaders remained very controlling and orderly, many of their policies changed the ways of their countries. These leaders changed the governments of the past and pushed them towards the future.
Good, very good.
My thesis was the rise of absolute monarchies and enlightened despotism in the 17th and 18th century Europe were very different in that the despots embraced Enlightenment ideals, while the early absolutionists did not. However, both held on to policies of control and both clung to absolute power.
Okay.
First paragraph was about their differences, and one of the main differences was their root was secularism. Secularism was separation from church and state, and not believing in divine right. The absolute monarchists before the despots believed in divine right. They believed that they were chosen by God to rule their country, and this made them believe that anyone else would have been worse at operating the country, so they really didn't listen to anyone else. Therefore, they made decisions on their own and rarely consulted anyone on these decisions. On the other hand, the enlightened despots, such as Frederick the Great, began to change these ideals. They did not believe in divine right, likely because of secularism from the church. So they didn't believe in God as much, so they didn't believe that they were chosen by him. And the enlightened despotic leaders began to separate state from church. Religious toleration and the aid to the Jewish religion occurred under leaders such as Joseph II and Frederick the Great. Maria Theresa taxed the Catholic Church, and all these are ways that the monarchies differed religiously from the despots.
Okay. Good.
Second body paragraph. In addition to separating the church and divine right, many of these enlightened despots began to recognize social classes and their differences and the importance of education of the masses. The old monarchies and kings used to tax the bottom class while allowing the nobility and upper classes to thrive off the peasants' hard work. While the classes continued on and working classes did continue to be exploited, the enlightened despots began to change the meaning of class. Maria Theresa began taxing the nobility, while Joseph II took away some of the nobility's rights, including in the courts. He also began educating children. Up to 25% of children were educated during this time, which is a lot for the time. Frederick the Great tried to free the serfs, and he began to educate the peasants, even though very few actually got this education. And Catherine the Great funded schools and advocated against serfdom. However, it really didn't work out.
Right. You remember Frederick the Great? He wanted education, but only education to the point that it would help them be better farmers. Basic arithmetic skills, that kind of stuff.
As you can see, many enlightened ideals were instilled by these rulers. However, not all of the enlightened despots' policies were different from their predecessors. Maria Theresa banned the enlightened works of Voltaire and Rousseau. She banned these works because they may not have agreed with her or her policies, much like her predecessors are done. Joseph II was very irrational and hired and fired people within his government at will. This is very aligned with the monarchs before, who believed that they had complete power over their country. He also maintained old economic policies. Frederick the Great ran his country around a strong military. Sadly, this led him to be very strict, and he would tax men simply because they had a profession instead of joining his army. He also allowed the junkers to be a class above others because they control the military, so he put them above all other people. In these ways and more, the enlightened despots failed to change the ways of the past and were unfair to their citizens.
Okay. Remember, the Junkers are the German name for the noble class. Remember, Boyars are the Russian name. Very good. Good job. Thank you. Are you awake now, by the way?
Yeah, sort of.
That's all right. All right. Good job. One other, real quick, before we get to the DBQ, give me a second here. I do want to go through this myself a little bit. Where is it? There we go. So the question states, nature and nature's law lay hidden in the night. God said, let Newton be, and all was light. So this is a line from a poem by Alexander Pope. Basically, it was this: what was the effect of the 17th century science on Christianity, and how did it react to each other? I'm not going to read through all of this, but this was a key handout, I thought, and then this kind of backs up. I shared with you a chart the other day regarding the great thinkers of the scientific revolution. And just to reiterate that, we have, Francis Bacon, Tycho Brahe, Johannes Kepler, Galileo, Descartes, and of course Newton. So again, this will be shared with you, but this is just a helpful little hint. And the reason I wanted to do this today was because the DBQ of practice today is basically on the Catholic Church's role in the scientific revolution. So I will share this out with you, but one thing I would probably advise as you're working on this today is to have that chart out just in case you're looking for outside evidence, and that's one of the points of focus for today. So let me get to that. So let's get to the actual question. And this is actually, this is a modified, it's a 5-document DBQ, as we've been seeing. And this is, I think, from last year. Yeah, revised from last year. So this is pretty current. So the question states, can you all see that? I mean, I'm sharing, right? I think. Someone say yes.
We can see that.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Just checking. Okay, so the question is evaluate whether or not the Catholic Church in the 1600s was opposed to the new ideas of science. So what you're going to be doing today is you're going to be creating a thesis again, stating your belief that the Catholic Church was opposed to science or was not opposed to science. Okay, or was opposed to science in some ways, or was not opposed to science in some ways. Okay, so that it's a very clear cut. It's not a yes or no, but you get the idea. It's you're picking one side. So we have source 1, a Catholic monk and scientist, concerning the Pythagorean and Copernican opinion. Okay, so you can. Sometimes the sourcing is more difficult than the reading. You have Catholic Cardinal Bellarmine in a response to this letter. Okay. Document 3, you see this drawing, illustration from a text on sunspots by Christoph Schreiner, a German Jesuit, hint, 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 Jesuit astronomer. Okay, you don't need to read the Latin for that, but that kind of shows you something. Oops. Sorry. Me. And document 5, Rene Descartes are the samples here. So now I got to get to, I'm sorry about this. I thought I had the question up. Give me 1 second here. Sorry. Where the heck is it? Okay. So I don't know this. This is no different than the A-push, kids. So don't worry. Don't ignore the A-push practice too. So your task today is as follows. You're going to write a thesis to that question, evaluate whether or not the Catholic Church was opposed to science. And this is the trick. This is what we're working on today. You're going to group the documents as to how you would use them in the essay. What documents support one side? What documents support the other side? Okay. You need to describe both of those. You know, in paragraph 1, let's say there's 2. There might be 3, but let's just say there's 2. You need to describe both of them and cap 1. Okay. In paragraph 2, you're going to use the example there is docs 1 and 5. If that, you're going to describe them both and cap 1. Okay. So we're only looking at 4 documents. If you have time, throw the 5th document in there. Okay. Again, we're trying to get this done in 25 minutes. And also in a clearly separate field of at least 2 sentences each are your pieces of outside information. Okay. So lots of moving parts here, but again, you're going to have to, in a week and a half, you're going to have to do a couple more things as well. But this is sort of the crux of it. If we can get this down relatively quickly, we're going to be golden. So again, you're writing and just like last week, you're going to do this in a Word document or Google Docs and then upload it to Turnitin. It's already in Turnitin. The question is already in Schoology. I got to put this one in Schoology too. I could have sworn I didn't. I must not have. So writing a thesis, look at the documents, spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes reading the documents. My suggestion to you is to just quickly scroll down a T-chart that has, you know, opposed to science or pro-science, which documents go there, and that's how you group them. And when we describe the documents, you know, in document 1 is a letter describing blah, blah, blah. You can cap that one, or you just need to cap 2. Remember what the rubric says. You only need to cap 2 of the 5 documents to get that 3rd point. So that's all we're working on. And then at the end of it, you're going to have 2 pieces of at least 2 sentences each of outside information. So, is that clear, or did I confuse you all?
With the 2 separate paragraphs, are those like the pro and against sort of thing? Or because like with another DBQ, we might have 3 paragraphs? Like,
yeah, you know, it's probably not gonna, you're probably not gonna have time to get the 3rd paragraph for everybody. Some of you may. So this is one of the things that, again, I'm insisting that this is time so that we have a week or so to plan ahead to say, you know, I'm not going to have time to get to that 3rd paragraph. Some of you may be able to get to that 3rd paragraph. So what I would advise is you guys have been doing a great job all year of adding the counter argument in your thesis. I would certainly continue to do that. This one, there's really not a counter argument. It's either yes or no, you know. But I would, if you have time, get to it. If you don't have time, focus on what we're accumulating points. You know, in a normal situation, we would be doing contextualization, thesis. You know, you need to describe all 5 documents. You need to cap 2, and you need 2 pieces of outside information. Well, that's 2, 4. That's 7 points right there. If we're getting 7 points, we're rocking and rolling. If you happen to get 8 or 9, God bless you. That's awesome. But I wouldn't count on doing the counter argument, with the exception of this. With the exception of this corollary, or if there's some documents in there that you can't get, like, what the heck is he talking about? I don't get this at all. Well, then you had better, you know, you might lose a point there, but you can gain it with a counter argument. Does that make sense, Kate?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm struggling a little bit, as you can see, to give you a clearly defined method, because that time element is just a big weight on our shoulders, and it all depends. You know, some of you read really fast, some of you don't. That's fine. If you're not reading very fast, then maybe you should consider doing a counter argument, because your analysis of the documents might not be as good. You know, you're going to have to kind of think of it on the fly, so to speak. So I know that's not a very satisfactory answer, but that's what the answer I have.
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah. You probably already said this, but for the like the paragraph 1 and 2, are we writing out 2 paragraphs, or is it just like an analysis of whatever documents we use and then 1 cap of that?
As close as you can get it into a paragraph form, I think would be best, just for the time element sake. You know, you're not, you know, I would suggest, if you're grouping, let's say, documents 2 and 4 together, there's a reason for that. So I would put that in sort of a paragraph form. Okay. One thing, you remember, the outside evidence only has to be a couple sentences, so that's not necessarily 2 more paragraphs. I don't think we're gonna have time for that. It can't be just a sentence. It needs to be, you know, a sentence and a sentence of explanation. So again, I don't know. You know, maybe I don't think I'm asking too much at this point. One of the things that I know for sure that we're going to work on next week is our contextualization. Like, Cam, your contextualization was awesome, but you're going to have to cut that in half on the test day. You're just not going to have the time to do that. So you know, contextualization, I'm not worried about, because we've been working on that all year, and that can be compressed. You know, it's just trying to fit these things into blocks of time. So Sabina, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. And then also, how much time should we be like shooting for to do this in today?
I would say the time it takes is for you to do a good job on it.
Okay.
So if you go over 25 minutes, that's fine. And I know some of you did over 25 minutes last week, and you did fine. Well, so we just have to understand what we're trying to do is we're trying to maximize the number of points. Because this is so different and so individualized, I would say this: so if it's taking you a longer time to do the documents, then you had better earn your points in the documents. You better get it right. And then hopefully you can sneak in some outside evidence, and you can get your 6, 7 points that way. If you are getting through this very, very quickly and doing it right, well, then you have the opportunity to do a counter argument to some extent. So, and again, it's all going to depend on the question. Think about it. One of the questions could be, Cam might have just gotten his question. You might know it already, but some of you may not. So it's sort of individualized. So does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
So are you going to be sharing the 40 and 20 questions with the rest of the class?
Yeah, I've already started doing that.
All right.
But I usually do that on Friday when we're done. There's not as many this week as the first week, but that's in the it's in the same drive that I shared your chapter summaries with you.
Okay.
Okay. I wouldn't utilize those today though, and I wouldn't utilize those are there to help you with the rescue packet and preparation stuff. I wouldn't have that open on test day. That's why we're doing the rescue packet and the art packet. So that's all you have in front of you there. Anybody else?
So this weekend, do you have any other suggestions for us to do besides the rescue packet to review?
I can put something out there for you in Schoology. What I would, in a perfect world, this would be a great time to be doing, like note cards and stuff like that. But those are at school and I can't get in. I'll put some links to websites and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? And I know, I understand too that, this is going to be the nicest weekend that we've had in a month. But, I'm not saying you have to lock yourself into your room all day. You need to just block off a time for this, and more than what you usually would. If you have a structured day where I'm spending a half hour or 45 minutes on European history, well, this weekend you need a block of time of a couple on Saturday, a couple time on Sunday. That could be Saturday night, it could be Saturday morning. Then you can go outside and play or whatever, and but it just needs it needs to be a significant time. So regarding this, the DBQ activity today. So I went a little bit longer, but you can still be done before 11 with this. So if you can, my suggestion to you is to do this right now. Do it fresh. Time yourself again. Please put the time on your assignment. Also, if you wanted to, one of the things that we have to practice is putting your APE ID and your initials at the top of the page. So if you wanted to really start practicing, find your APE ID. If you can memorize that, put that at the top of the page. Also, please put I'll see your name anyway, but that's certainly an option. But you don't have, if you have some other things to do, I want this basically by Sunday night. But again, I do want you to time yourself. The timing is really, really important. Because that's just going to help you moving forward to know what you can focus on and what you can concentrate on. Let me just say one thing, regarding that, I had a mentor session for my AP US with the College Board on Wednesday, and one of the teachers from Florida has a number of freshmen, imagine US history freshmen, that they're struggling readers. So their plan is they've been working context, thesis, and summary of documents all year. Well, that's their plan. They're shooting for 5 points. I think we're beyond that. So each individual is going to have a little bit different plan of attack, so to speak, if that makes any sense. So, okay, so again, DBQ practice 2, thesis, grouping the documents in the argument, describe all the documents, cap only two pieces of outside information. And if it takes you 35 minutes, it takes you 35 minutes. Do a good job on it, but we need to have that internal clock going. So if there's no other questions, I'll let you go. And I will put that assignment sheet up at Schoology, so you just have to give me a minute to do that. The documents are already up there, so you can take a look. All right. Very good. If there's no questions, thank you all. Have a good weekend.
Mr. Pfeiffer.